You know, after 40 years working as a structural engineer in Ohio, I dreamed of nothing but peace. So when I finally retired, I sold my old place and bought myself a $2 million villa on the Atlantic coast in sunny Naples, Florida. I thought I'd earn some quiet mornings, ocean breezes, and time to finally do nothing. But peace is a fragile thing when you have family. The day I moved in, boxes everywhere, sun streaming through the kitchen windows, I was unwrapping a crystal wine glass and thinking, "This is it, John. You finally made it." That's when the phone rang, shattering my afternoon like a brick through glass. I expected it was maybe my old friend George calling to congratulate me. But no. The name flashing on the screen was my son-in-law, Tyler. I barely got out. "Hello?" before his voice bulldozed over me. "Hey, old man. Just wanted to let you know we're on our way. There's 14 of us, me, Sarah, the kids, and everyone else. We're bringing our friends, so make sure you have enough beds, towels, food, all that. We'll be there for about 3 weeks. Be ready, we're pulling in 40 minutes. Nada. Please. Nada. Do you mind?" Just straight demands, like I was his hotel concierge. I nearly dropped the phone. 40 years of careful saving, delayed vacations, missed chances, every sacrifice I'd made for this retirement, for this house. And now I was being told to prepare for an army. I glanced outside at the private beach, waves rolling in. Boxes still cluttered the kitchen, my life waiting to be unpacked. "Tyler," I tried. "I haven't even finished moving in. There aren't enough beds, the place is a mess." He cut me off. "John, you've got the space. You've got the money. Don't make this complicated." His arrogance filled the room, mixing with the salt air until I could barely breathe. "Tyler, this is my first week here. Nothing is set up yet and—" He just laughed. "Figure it out, Pops. You're retired, right? What else are you gonna do?" I pressed my hand against the cool granite counter, feeling my knuckles turn white. I'd imagined this home would be a reward for a lifetime of putting others first. And now, within hours, I was right back where I started, being told what to do in my own house. He wasn't done. "Sarah's already packed up the kids. Michael and Amanda are bringing their crew, too. It'll be like a big family reunion. Can't wait." A family reunion. That's what he called this invasion. As if my years of giving, money for emergencies, college tuitions, home down payments, had bought me nothing but a permanent obligation. I tried to stall. "Tyler, I need time to get things ready. Maybe you could come next month." But he just scoffed. "We're almost there, John. Don't disappoint the kids. They've been hearing about Grandpa John's fancy new place for weeks. Oh, and Sarah wants your master bedroom. You've got the best view, right? We'll take that one." My sanctuary, the master bedroom with the balcony looking out over the ocean, the room I'd been dreaming of since my first construction job back in the 80s, was being claimed before I'd even slept a full night in it. "We'll be there in 35 minutes. Don't keep us waiting." Tyler finished and hung up. I stood there, in the sunlight, feeling the old tremor in my hands. I set the phone down and stared at the photo of my late wife, Linda, the only thing I'd unpacked so far. Her warm smile looked back at me from a silver frame. 3 years since cancer took her, but I still felt her in the room, especially when things got hard. She used to say, "Be generous, John. But don't let anyone take advantage of your kindness." She'd loved Sarah, our only daughter, so much. But she'd never have imagined this. Now I was alone, in my own house, counting down 35 minutes until my retirement dream was overrun by people who saw me as little more than a free vacation. But as I looked at Linda's photo, I felt a flicker of resolve. Maybe it was time this old man taught them a lesson they'd never forget. When I was young, I thought family meant loyalty. Maybe that's just how it was back in the Midwest, where I grew up. Your word meant something. People asked before they took. Now, I stood in my kitchen, the sun slanting across moving boxes and my untouched bottle of wine, waiting for the sound of car engines to break my hard-won peace. And sure enough, 30 minutes later it started, a growing rumble out on the private road, like the start of a summer storm. I looked out and saw not just one car but 5 SUVs and minivans packed with people, coolers, luggage, even an inflatable swan tied to the roof. Tyler's black SUV led the parade, pulling right into my driveway as if he owned the place. I could already see his wife, Sarah, fixing her lipstick in the mirror. Their oldest, little Ben, pressing his face against the window, making faces at the palm trees. Michael and Amanda's Jeep was next, loaded with beach gear, and behind them came Amanda's sister Megan, a woman I'd only met once, waving as if this were a family reunion I'd spent months planning. By the time I reached the door, they were piling out onto my stone walkway, tracking sand and grass everywhere. Tyler didn't even knock, he just opened the door and hollered, "We're here, old man! What's for lunch?" Before I could answer, the living room filled with voices, bags dropping on my white sofa, kids racing toward the pool. "This is insane!" Michael called, dragging a cooler across the hardwood. "John, you must be raking it in." Sarah didn't bother to look at me, just swept past with an armful of suitcases and a, "We'll need fresh towels and extra pillows in the master. The kids have swim class in the morning, so make sure the pool heater's on." My master bedroom, already being claimed by a woman who never even sent a thank you note after Christmas. I tried to speak, but my words vanished in the noise. Someone cranked up my sound system, filling the air with thumping pop music. Little Ben and his cousin Zach raced past, heading for the pool. Megan started a live stream on her phone. "Staying at Grandpa John's luxury villa in Naples. Look at this view, guys." It was like watching my life be repurposed in real time, a set for someone else's vacation, a backdrop for Instagram stories. "Tyler," I managed, finally raising my voice, "let's talk." But he was already in the kitchen, opening my fridge, stacking beer bottles on the counter. "Don't worry, Pops. Just relax. We've got it covered." He tossed me a beer as if I should thank him for the privilege. Amanda was rearranging my living room furniture, pushing my favorite reading chair into a corner. Michael took over the grill on my back patio, already calling out for the good steak knives. The guests kept arriving, more friends of friends, people whose names I couldn't remember. Someone set up a card table in the dining room. Another stranger helped herself to my imported coffee, spilling grounds everywhere. And in the middle of this circus, I caught Sarah, phone pressed to her ear, telling someone, "Yes, we're staying in the master suite. The lighting's perfect for my yoga videos. I'll send you the link." I couldn't take it anymore. "Excuse me. Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The music dropped, conversations paused. I saw 15 pairs of eyes on me, some expectant, some impatient, none grateful. I told Tyler on the phone, "I'm not ready for this many guests. I don't have enough rooms and—" But Tyler stepped forward, a practiced grin on his face. "John, don't be dramatic. Family helps family. We'll handle it." He placed a hand on my shoulder, like he was calming a stubborn dog. The condescension in his touch made my blood boil. "Sarah and I will take the master, obviously. Michael and Amanda, the guest suite with the balcony. Megan and her boyfriend can use the room by the pool." I moved to block the hallway. "No one is staying in my bedroom. That room's off limits." Tyler's smile vanished. "Come on, John. We drove all the way down from Atlanta. You have space. Don't be selfish." For a second, the old John, the one who always said yes to keep the peace, nearly relented. But then I thought of Linda, and everything we built together. "You have the rest of the house. The master suite is mine. That's not up for debate." Michael tried to diffuse the tension with a joke. "Don't worry. Man, we'll just crash wherever. We're not picky." But the mood had shifted. Amanda shot me a dirty look. Megan rolled her eyes and texted furiously on her phone. Sarah, used to getting her way, put a hand on her hip and said, "We'll discuss this later, John." I looked around at the chaos. Kids in wet swimsuits leaving puddles on the floor, bags strewn across every chair, strangers arguing over room assignments, my once peaceful villa already transformed into a boarding house. In that moment, standing in my own foyer, I realized these people weren't here for me. They were here for what I had, my home, my comfort, my years of sacrifice. And if I didn't stand my ground, I'd lose the last thing I'd worked a lifetime to earn. I took a deep breath, steadied my voice, and said, "If you can't respect my rules, you're all free to leave." The words hung in the air. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker across Tyler's face. But I meant every syllable. For the first time in a long time, I was choosing myself. You learn a lot about people when you say no. For the first time in decades. The silence after my words felt thick as swamp air. Tyler's charm cracked for a split second, revealing something harder underneath: resentment, maybe even contempt. Sarah's lips pressed together into a cold line. Around the room, nobody made eye contact. My once inviting home now felt like a standoff in a spaghetti western, everyone waiting to see who would blink first. Ben and Zach, blissfully ignorant, kept chasing each other toward the pool, splashing water onto my imported tile. Amanda set her suitcase down with a thud and muttered, "We'll just see about that." Michael, always the peacekeeper, forced a laugh and said, "Let's not make a big deal, John. We're all tired from the drive." But I stood my ground. "I'm serious. My bedroom is my space. The rest of the house is yours, temporarily. But respect my boundaries, or there's the door." Tyler tried to play the victim. "John, you really want to ruin the first family trip we've had in years? Think of the kids." That was always his move: hide his entitlement behind family togetherness. "The kids can enjoy the house without taking over my bedroom," I replied. "If that's not enough, you're welcome to check into a hotel." He bristled at that, but before he could say more, Sarah piped up, "I already told my followers I'd be doing a yoga live stream from the master balcony. I can't exactly back out now. This is supposed to be our break, John. You're making everything difficult." I almost laughed at the absurdity. My private sanctuary, reduced to a backdrop for influencer content. "Sarah, you're a guest in my house, not a resident. Please remember that." Her eyes flashed, but she said nothing. Instead, she picked up her phone and began furiously typing a text, likely to Amanda or Megan, plotting their next move. Meanwhile, the rest of the group started unloading coolers and duffel bags, claiming territory. Megan's boyfriend, Tyler Jr., yes, another Tyler, just to make things confusing, carried in a Bluetooth speaker and cranked up the music again, as if nothing had happened. Some of the kids started digging through my cabinets for snacks. I heard a crash from the laundry room. Someone had knocked over my neatly stacked boxes. I followed the noise and found Amanda, red-faced and defensive. "Sorry, John. Just looking for extra towels. Didn't realize it'd be a problem." "It's not," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "If you put things back the way you found them." She didn't answer, but I could tell she was annoyed. I felt my heart pounding, frustration tightening my chest. All those years of working overtime, building this life from nothing, and now I was being treated like an inconvenience in my own home. Back in the living room, Sarah had resumed her Instagram live, spinning the narrative. "Well, guys, there's been a little hiccup with the room assignments, but we're making it work. Family's about compromise, right?" Her smile was flawless, her tone syrupy sweet, but her eyes darted to me, daggers behind the performance. Tyler took a beer from the fridge, cracked it open, and leaned on the counter. "Let's all just relax, okay? We're here, and we're staying. If the master's off limits, so be it." It sounded like a concession, but I recognized the warning underneath. Don't push him further. I nodded, but inside I knew this was just round one. The rest of the afternoon blurred into controlled chaos. I kept trying to reassert some order, picking up after the kids, asking people not to leave wet towels on the furniture, explaining, again and again, that certain rooms were off limits. Most of them ignored me, acting like rules didn't apply in a vacation house. At dinner, Michael announced, "Let's grill out back. John, you've got steaks, right?" "I have enough for a quiet meal," I answered. "Not a feast for 15. He shrugged. "No worries. We'll order pizza." Sarah sighed theatrically. "We came all this way for pizza?" I almost told them to leave right then and there. Instead, I excused myself and went upstairs, shutting the master bedroom door behind me. I leaned against the cool wood, breathing deep, trying to calm the anger that simmered just below the surface. On my nightstand, Linda's photo smiled at me. "You'd have kicked them out already," I whispered to her. "You never took this kind of nonsense from anybody." I sat down and let my mind wander back. The first time I'd given Tyler money was right after he married Sarah. His business had failed, and they needed help with rent. "Just this once, John," Linda had said. Their family. But once turned into twice, then 20 times. New car. House down payment. Medical bills. And now, apparently, a free Florida vacation at my expense. The more I thought about it, the clearer things became. This wasn't a family visit. This was an invasion. An occupation. And I'd been complicit, saying yes to everything for years. Outside, the sun was setting over the Atlantic, painting the waves gold and orange. I watched the sky darken, feeling a strange calm settle over me. For the first time in a long while, I was ready to fight for what I'd built, not with shouting or drama, but with quiet determination. If they wanted to treat my home like a resort, they'd soon learn what happened when the owner stopped playing host. That night, as the sounds of laughter and music drifted up through the floor, I started making a plan. I barely slept that night. Downstairs, the party didn't wind down until well after midnight. Every thump of bass vibrated up through the floorboards, every burst of laughter a reminder that my peace was slipping further away. Around 2 a.m., I heard someone rummaging in the kitchen. Dishes clattered, cabinet doors slammed. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wide awake, rehearsing what I'd say in the morning. But the truth was, words alone wouldn't fix this. I needed a plan that would make them understand, once and for all, that kindness wasn't weakness. That this house, and everything in it, belonged to me. Sunrise came early on the coast. I went down to make coffee, hoping for a few quiet moments. Instead, I found Megan and Tyler Jr. asleep on the couch, snoring, wrapped in one of my good throws. Crumbs littered the coffee table. An empty beer can rolled off as I picked up a plate, making me flinch at the sharp metallic sound. I stood there, staring at the mess, and something inside me finally snapped. Enough was enough. I brewed my coffee, grabbed a notebook, and sat out on the balcony, feeling the breeze off the ocean and making a list, every boundary crossed, every disrespectful thing they'd done since they'd walked through my door. I was methodical, just like I'd been in my engineering days. By the time I finished, the sun was fully up and my anger had burned down to a cold resolve. One by one, the guests began to wake. Sarah drifted into the kitchen in designer pajamas, scrolling through her phone. "Morning, John! Do we have almond milk for my latte?" "No, Sarah," I said evenly. "There's regular milk. And if you need something special, there's a grocery store 2 miles away." She shot me a look but didn't reply. Amanda wandered in next, hair a mess, mumbling something about bagels. Michael appeared, still wearing swim trunks from last night, and asked if he could borrow my golf clubs for the day. "I'm going golfing with Tyler," he said. "You don't mind, right? We saw a course down the road." "Those clubs are a gift from my father," I replied. I'd rather you didn't use them. He shrugged. No big deal, man. But his eyes said he wasn't used to being told no. By 9 a.m., the kitchen was full. Kids demanded waffles, adults complained about the lack of organic juice, and Megan had the nerve to ask where I kept the spare keys so she could pop out for a bit. That's when I made my announcement. I set my coffee cup down and raised my voice just enough to cut through the chatter. From now on, this house has rules. My bedroom is off limits, period. If you make a mess, you clean it. If you use something, you put it back. And if you don't like it, you're welcome to leave. There was a stunned silence. Tyler looked up from his phone, feigning confusion. Whoa, John, what's gotten into you? What's gotten into me? I said. Is that I've spent my life being generous. And now I'd like some respect. Sarah scoffed. You're overreacting. We're family. Family or not, I replied. I won't be treated like staff in my own home. Amanda rolled her eyes. It's just a vacation. Don't make this dramatic. I'm not making it dramatic, I said. But I won't have people treating my house like a hotel. Ben, sensing the tension, tugged at Sarah's sleeve. Mom, are we in trouble? She forced a smile for him but glared at me. No, sweetie. Grandpa's just tired. Tyler stood up, squaring his shoulders. You know what? Maybe this wasn't a good idea after all. If you want us gone, just say the word. For a moment, the old fear, the fear of losing family, of being alone, bubbled up inside me. But I pushed it down. That's not what I said. I just want my boundaries respected. Nobody replied. The group split, some shuffling outside to the pool, others disappearing back to their rooms. The uneasy truce lasted all morning. I spent the next hours in my study, reviewing documents I'd been meaning to sort since I moved in. My late wife Linda's photo smiled at me from the bookshelf. I thought about what she'd say if she saw this circus. Probably something like, "You taught them to treat you this way by never saying no." She would have been right. I'd enabled them. I'd handed out checks for every crisis, never asked for repayment, always the reliable, generous father-in-law. They'd grown to expect it. After lunch, the next blow landed. I overheard Sarah on the phone in the backyard, voice sweet as honey, but the words stung. Yeah, we're down in Florida at John's place. 3 weeks. No, he didn't even ask if we'd come, just assumed we'd show up. He's got money to burn, you know how it is with these old guys. Can't take it with them, right? I felt sick to my stomach. That's how they saw me, a walking checkbook, a vacation property, a man whose usefulness was measured by his generosity. That evening, I called a locksmith. Quietly, I scheduled a visit for the next afternoon. If they wanted to treat my house like a free resort, maybe it was time to remind them who held the keys. Night fell, bringing with it another round of noisy celebration. But this time, as I lay in bed, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. Tomorrow, things would change. One way or another, this would be my home again. By the time the locksmith's van pulled into my driveway the next day, the house already felt different. Maybe it was just the promise of action, the feeling that I was finally reclaiming my life. But even the air seemed fresher. Tyler and Michael had taken the guys golfing, Sarah was shooting yoga videos on the balcony, and the kids were out with Amanda at a local ice cream shop. For the first time since their arrival, the place was nearly quiet. The locksmith, a sturdy guy named Dave, shook my hand. Whole house rekey, right? That's right, I told him, keeping my voice steady. Just want to make sure everything's secure. He nodded, not asking questions. In less than an hour, every lock, front, back, patio doors, even the garage, had new keys. I paid Dave in cash and handed him a generous tip. You ever need a reference, John, you let me know, he said with a smile. Sometimes a man's gotta keep his castle safe. With the new keys jingling in my pocket, I walked back inside, feeling something I hadn't in weeks: control. When the family returned, I gathered everyone in the living room. They sprawled across my furniture, looking more like tenants than guests. I held up the keys. "There's been a change," I began. "Everyone will get one key for the main entrance. All other doors stay locked, except mine. The garage and my study are off limits. And when you leave the house, the doors stay locked." Tyler looked up, surprised. "What's with the security, John? Are you worried someone's gonna break in?" "I'm making sure my home is respected. And I'm making it clear that this is my space. Anyone uncomfortable with that can check into the hotel down the road." Amanda rolled her eyes. "This is getting ridiculous." "We're not children, John." "Then you'll have no problem following the rules," I replied. Michael tried to laugh it off. "Hey, at least we know he's not hiding the good scotch anymore." Ben, the youngest, piped up. "Grandpa, can I have a key too?" I smiled gently. "Just the adults, Ben. You're still a bit young for that responsibility." There was grumbling, but nobody dared outright refuse. Tyler took the key, turning it over in his hand like it might bite him. "Fine," he said. "If that's what you want." "Exactly," I said. "That's what I want." For the rest of the day, the mood was different. The house felt less like a free-for-all and more like the home I'd intended it to be. The kids still played, but their parents kept a closer eye on them. Megan and Tyler Jr. left for the beach without asking for the spare keys. Amanda started cleaning up after her kids without being prompted. That evening, I made dinner, just enough for myself. When Tyler and Sarah came into the kitchen and saw me sitting down with a plate of roast chicken and vegetables, Tyler raised an eyebrow. "No dinner for the rest of us?" "There's plenty of food in the fridge," I replied. "Help yourself, but please clean up afterward." Sarah looked appalled. "You're not going to cook for all of us? You always used to." "I'm not your chef, Sarah. I'm not your maid. I'm your host, and these are my new boundaries." For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. Then Tyler laughed, trying to defuse the tension. "All right, man. You do you." But I saw the way he looked at Sarah, frustration brewing beneath the surface. He wasn't used to being denied. After dinner, I retreated to my study, locking the door behind me. I could hear the muffled voices of Tyler and Michael in the kitchen, their words indistinct but their tone unmistakable, annoyed, confused, angry. They'd come for an all-expenses-paid holiday, and were realizing those days were over. I sat at my desk and began to write a letter to Linda, not to send, but for myself. I told her everything, how lost I felt without her wisdom, how disappointed I was by the way our generosity had been repaid, how proud I was to finally stand up for myself, even if it meant some hard feelings. The more I wrote, the lighter I felt. By the end, my hand was steady, my heart at peace. The next morning, I found Sarah on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, looking out at the water. She didn't smile when she saw me. "John," she began, "I know this trip hasn't turned out the way you imagine. But can't we just enjoy the rest of the time? For the kids' sake, at least?" I sat beside her. "I want that too, Sarah. But not at the expense of my dignity. I'm not here to be taken for granted." She was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe we have been a little demanding. I'm sorry if we made you feel used." It wasn't everything I wanted to hear, but it was a start. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That means a lot." Later that day, the rest of the group seemed to make an effort. Michael helped with breakfast. Amanda offered to clean the pool deck. Megan and Tyler Jr. kept the music down. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Still, I knew better than to believe the peace would last forever. Old habits die hard. And as the week went on, the cracks began to show again, small at first, but growing. But now I was ready. Whatever happened, I wouldn't lose myself, or my home, again. The uneasy peace in my villa didn't last. By the middle of the second week, small annoyances grew into bigger confrontations. Tyler, who had always seen himself as the family's ringleader, grew restless. He couldn't hide his disappointment that I wouldn't just go along anymore. Michael and Amanda tried to keep the kids in line, but Megan and Tyler Jr. started grumbling about the new rules. I saw group texts buzzing at the table, sideways glances, and muttered conversations on the patio. Sarah smiled less, her influencer posts shifting in tone from cheerful to vaguely passive-aggressive. Her followers messaged, "Is your grandpa okay? Why does he seem so grumpy?" She showed me some of the messages once, hoping for a reaction. I just nodded and kept sipping my coffee. Then, one Thursday night, things came to a head. It was nearly midnight. I was already in bed, the ocean breeze ruffling the curtains, when a crash downstairs jolted me awake. Voices echoed through the halls, raised, agitated, punctuated by the sound of slamming doors. I found Tyler in the kitchen, gesturing wildly at Michael, Megan, and Amanda, who were crowded around the counter. An open bottle of wine, half spilled, stained the granite. "This is insane, John!" Tyler shouted as I entered. "You're treating us like criminals in our own family." I kept my tone calm. "I've asked for nothing but respect, Tyler. That's all." "You changed all the locks," he yelled, waving the house key. "You act like we're trespassers instead of your family. What kind of man does that?" "The kind of man who's done being taken for granted," I replied evenly. Megan broke in, her voice sharp. "You know, John, most people would be grateful to have family visit. We came all this way, spent our own money on travel, just to be together. You didn't ask if you could come," I reminded her. "You told me. There's a difference." Amanda looked at me, eyes tired, voice trembling with frustration. "We just wanted a place to relax. We thought you'd be happy to have everyone here." I sighed. "I wanted you to visit. I didn't want to be invaded." For a moment, the kitchen was silent. Even Tyler seemed at a loss for words. But Michael, usually the peacemaker, finally snapped. "So what now, John? You gonna call the cops? Kick us all out on the street?" The question, once unimaginable, no longer seemed so far-fetched. I spoke quietly but firmly. "If you can't respect my boundaries, yes. This is my home. I have the right to decide who stays in it." Sarah, who had been standing in the hallway, started crying. "You're tearing this family apart, John. You're choosing your house over your own daughter." I felt the old guilt stir, but I pushed it away. "I'm choosing self-respect, Sarah. I've spent too many years letting people walk over me. No more." The next morning, the atmosphere was icy. Tyler and Michael barely spoke to me. Amanda avoided eye contact. Megan scrolled on her phone, muttering about toxic family energy. The kids, sensing the tension, stayed glued to the TV. I went for a long walk on the beach, letting the salt air clear my head. I thought about Linda, about all those years we'd spent teaching Sarah about kindness, generosity, and standing up for yourself. She would have been sad to see things turn out this way, but she also would have understood. When I returned, I found Sarah sitting alone in the living room, red-eyed and quiet. "Dad," she whispered, "are we really that awful?" I sat next to her. "No, honey. You're not awful. But sometimes people forget how much their actions affect others. I let it happen by never saying no. That stops now." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I don't want the kids to remember this as the summer we fought with Grandpa." "Neither do I," I said, voice softening. "But it's better they learn what healthy boundaries look like, even if it's uncomfortable." That afternoon, the group called a family meeting. Tyler was the spokesperson, his arms crossed tight, jaw set. "We've decided we're cutting the trip short," he announced. "We'll pack up tomorrow." "You clearly don't want us here." I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. "I never said I didn't want you here. I just needed respect for my space." He didn't answer, just turned and walked away. The next day was a flurry of activity: suitcases packed, food thrown out, kids arguing over forgotten toys. Amanda and Michael loaded up their minivan. Megan and Tyler Jr. called a rideshare. Sarah hugged me tightly, tears in her eyes, the kids waving awkwardly from the porch. Tyler was last. He paused at the door, looking at me with a complicated mixture of anger and disappointment. "You know, John, family means compromise. Remember that." "I do," I said quietly. "But compromise goes both ways." He left without another word. For the first time in weeks, the house was quiet. I wandered from room to room, taking in the silence. It wasn't the same kind of quiet I'd felt when Linda died, but it was close, a bittersweet emptiness, heavy but honest. I sat on the deck as the sun set, a glass of scotch in hand, the sky burning orange and purple over the water. I felt loss and freedom at the same time. I'd stood up for myself, set the boundary, and, for once, refused to apologize for it. Maybe the wounds would heal. Maybe they wouldn't. But either way, I finally felt at peace in my own home. The silence after my family left was almost deafening. I wandered from room to room, picking up forgotten sandals, half-filled water bottles, and a lone inflatable swan floating listlessly in the pool. The echoes of laughter, arguments, and slamming doors faded, replaced by the gentle rhythm of the ocean waves and the whisper of palm fronds in the breeze. That first night alone, I expected regret. I thought I'd lie awake, replaying every confrontation, wondering if I'd pushed too hard or been too stubborn. But instead I slept deeply, better than I had since moving in. I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and a sense of relief that settled into my bones. With the house finally to myself, I set about reclaiming my space. I deep-cleaned the kitchen, reorganized the living room, and returned every piece of furniture to its rightful place. I patched a few new dings in the drywall, scrubbed the stains from the marble, and washed every towel and bedsheet the family had used. By the time I was finished, the villa looked the way it had the day I moved in, pristine, peaceful, and entirely my own. I took a long walk along the beach, shoes off, toes digging into the warm sand. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and seagrass. I passed couples holding hands, families with giggling children, retirees playing chess in the shade. I realized I'd spent so long focused on other people's needs that I'd forgotten how to simply enjoy my own company. When I got back, I found a message from Sarah on my phone. Her voice was hesitant, a mix of apology and uncertainty. "Dad, I hope you're okay. The kids already miss you. Maybe we pushed too hard. I'm sorry for how things ended. Call me when you're ready. We love you." I listened to it twice before answering. "Sarah, I love you too. You're always welcome here, but only if we all respect each other's boundaries. Let's give it some time, and then maybe we can try again." That afternoon, my neighbor, Mr. Peterson, stopped by. He was an old Navy vet with a white beard and a mischievous smile. "Heard you had a full house, John. Looks quiet now. Quieter than it's been in years," I replied, smiling for real. He laughed. "Trust me, peace and quiet are underrated. You come by for cards any time, you hear?" For the first time, I took him up on the offer. We played rummy on his back porch, watching the sky darken and the stars come out over the water. I told him a little about the family circus, and he just nodded knowingly. "Kids these days," he said, pouring us each a bourbon. "They think everything's theirs for the asking. Sometimes the only way they learn is when you say no." We clinked glasses in the fading light. Days passed, and I settled into a new routine: morning swims, afternoon books in the sun, calls with old friends from Ohio, long walks at sunset. I even took a painting class at the community center, something Linda had always wanted us to do together. I found myself smiling at her photo on my desk, whispering, "You'd be proud of me, Linda." I finally stood up for myself. A few weeks later, I heard from Tyler. The message was short and gruff, but there was a note of humility I'd never heard before. "John, the kids miss you. Sarah says we owe you an apology. Guess we forgot how to be guests, not invaders. If you ever want us back, maybe we could do things different. Your call." I took my time replying. "Tyler, I appreciate your message. You're welcome to visit, but next time, ask first. And if you can't respect the house or the people in it, then it's better we don't try." He didn't reply immediately, but a few days later, a postcard arrived from Atlanta. On the back, a scrawled note. "Lesson learned. Thanks for not giving up on us." That summer, I finally felt at home. Not because I'd shut the door on my family, but because I'd opened a new one for myself. I discovered that retirement wasn't just about finding peace, it was about finding the courage to protect it. The villa became a place of laughter again, just quieter, more honest, and on my terms. Sometimes Sarah brought the kids for a day, just the three of them, and we'd make sandwiches and build sandcastles like we used to. Tyler even stopped by once, just to shake my hand and say thanks. One night, sitting on the balcony with a glass of wine, the ocean breeze on my face, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't lonely either. I'd done the hardest thing a father can do. I'd loved my family enough to tell them the truth, even when it hurt. Linda's photo smiled back at me in the golden light, and I felt her pride as clear as the sound of the waves below. For the first time since she was gone, I looked forward to tomorrow. And that, my friend, is how an old man finally took back his paradise, and learned, at last, that peace is worth fighting for.